What's up, dudes? Welcome to Bunsen Burner Recordings Podcast, episode 7. My name is Dan, and I'm bedridden because of a Polish sausage that gave me food poisoning.
Did you say
And
polio?
a what?
Did
No,
you
not
say polio?
polio.
Oh,
A Polish sausage. Well, I guess it could be a
it's
Poland
similar,
sausage
right?
too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm pulling a Mac here. I'm in the bed. All right. So who else do we have here? The co-hosts, right? Co-hosts. Who are you guys?
Got Fredward
Fredward?
Frederick Benson.
and Paulus.
Paulus. All right. Well, Fredward, this is your choice for this week. So what do
It
we
is my
got?
choice, isn't it? Today we
Yeah.
have Amon from Chechia's second album, In the Shade of Death, from 2000,
Sick.
with an album cover that was uh, shamelessly pilfered from Gothic posters you can find at Target.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's funny. If you look at the cover, you see the skeleton or the death guy sitting on a chair. At the top of that chair has a pentacle and an A over top of it. The A stands for alchemy, and that's the brand of like posters that goth teenagers buy and put up in their bedrooms. Alchemy Gothic.
Oh, I didn't know that. It's interesting.
Yeah,
There's
it's
a couple things I forgot to bring up before we actually get into the album here.
yeah.
One, Paul, you had something to tell us, right? You went to see Atheist and Cynic this weekend.
Oh
How was
shit.
that?
Oh yeah, I saw them Saturday, L.A. The Telegram Ballroom. Uh, I showed up, like how we like to, right when the band start. It
Mm-hmm.
was a early show though, so it was at 7 I arrived, and then Atheist, I went to the bathroom, and then Atheist just gets on stage. Only thing, uh, Atheist felt more like a cover band to me.
Yeah, it's
Because
all different members.
they had the youngest kids ever. They're probably in their 20s, 30s. Those guys just playing all the instruments, and then they have, like, Kelly singing. And, yeah, it was just a weird vibe for me.
Isn't that weird? Like,
Feels,
I find that like a real bizarre little kind of turn off. Like, I
yeah,
went to see Morbid Saint, and the only remaining original member is Jay Visser at this point. And the singer, I mean, as good as he was really good. He pulled it off. Uh, but that guy was like born the year Spectrum of Death came out, and there's something weird about that.
yeah, that's what Kelly was saying. He's like, he wasn't doing it like in a, kind of pointing out like how it's weird. He was just kind of saying like, oh, it's cool that these younger guys. I'll tell you some cringe stuff he said later in the
Oh,
show,
okay.
but he said, he's all, yeah, these younger guys, he's all, we made this song, Mother Man, before these guys were born, about smoking weed and saving the world. And then, yeah, but more to that point, it was just like, I felt like it was like a cover band, like no, no, nothing against these guys because they were doing, they had the chops, everything. They were playing the bass licks and everything perfectly, guitar, awesome, but just seeing it as a cover band, and especially with the only original member being the singer, is just weird in itself because it's like they're not even, providing the music. They might as well be doing like karaoke.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
weird.
Did they have an album like that came out a few years ago, or am I tripping out? They did have an album, right? Had a lion on it, I
Atheist?
think. Yeah, I think
Jupiter.
Atheist did
Yeah,
have an album.
that was a while ago though.
Oh, was it?
I want to say that was like 2010, maybe later.
Hmm. So
Um,
Atheist and Cynic, right? And I think James said he saw Atheist like the week before you went. He said
Yeah,
he was
he
talking
went.
to Kelly a little bit.
He went like on Wednesday or something. I went up on Saturday, and I was asking him because I saw that he was, at the show, and I was like, "Oh, how are they?" He said, "Yeah, they're really good, and for what Atheist, was at this point, they were really good, and they played Unquestionable Presence all the way through, and then but they didn't do it like chronologically from track 1 to 8. They like did a couple just out of order, and then they played like Unholy Wars from Unholy War from Piece of Time, and a few other ones. And Yeah, so that's kind of how I felt about Atheist. A little stale for me. And if
Did they play On They Slay?
um, they might have. I'm not too familiar with like the earlier stuff. I was just kind of always listening to Elements, and then I was listening a little bit to Unquestionable Presence because this was coming up. But
Right on.
James said they played Unholy War when he saw him. That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah, they played
Yeah,
that
that's what
too.
Paul just said. Yeah.
And then if you look at the Atheist band photo right now, you can basically see the lineup and who was sharing the stage.
So did anything funny happen, or was it just cringe?
Uh, well, there was it just made me realize like how cringe metal shows are right now. 'Cause,
Why? What happened?
Weren't they always though?
I don't know.
Is it just worse than usual?
I think just from
No.
being outside of that scope of not being much of a participant in the activities that happen at shows now, it's like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
looking back at it, it was fun, and I was probably an idiot, to other people, but
Yeah, but it was fun.
yeah, it was fun, but I don't know if these people were having fun. It was just like it seemed more like a thing that they were think that they're supposed to do at shows rather than like watching the performance or something. It was just like really weird pitting, and then there's this guy that was like drunk at 7 o'clock.
Uh
That
What?
was
No, never.
huh.
he was like fucking sliding on everybody. He was like I would expect more people like him, but he was like the only one, which made him the odd man out, and everyone was not vibing with that, especially with the Cynic crowd there. That was
He was
more.
sliding on everybody.
Yeah, he was just like squeezing in between everybody, and like he later on in the Cynic set, he was like tapping on my shoulders from behind me, like doing the drums and shit.
Tapping on your shoulders. Oh, like he was playing the drums on you.
Yeah, like but he was
Oh,
like
I
right
see.
behind me, like tapping on my shoulders and shit. And then
Okay.
yeah, and then he was a couple rows in front of me. I think I was like 4 from the stage, and he was like going in front of the photographer that was in there, and like going in front of like these a bunch of like a group of people, and they just like fucking threw him back into like the fucking sorry thing you call a pit back there.
Yeah.
And then what else? What I was gonna say? Oh, some things Kelly was saying. He was
Yeah. What
saying
was he
that
saying?
yeah, he was
Save the
like
earth.
he was like, oh yeah, like basically saying like how the younger people generation who are like outcasts and stuff. He was saying like, yeah, that was us too, man, and we're glad that you guys are here to share this with us, and you know, saying it back, it not as cringe as it felt, but yeah, but
You are an outcast, just like me.
yeah.
You're into bed.
And then yeah, Cynic was awesome though, but they played Focus all the way through, not many stops, and then they had a little ceremony, or at least Paul did, where he burned sage and was I guess cleansing some pictures of both Sean's from Cynic, the bass player and the drummer, and then they came back and played a couple of songs. I think like the 3 from what is that one called? Their second album.
Traced in air.
Trace?
Yeah, Trace and Air. Yeah, but it was really crazy seeing them. I never thought I would, and apparently it's been like 14 years. And Paul himself was saying that like he's like, I didn't even know I was gonna come out to this. Kelly like dragged me out and got me out the house, which I'm grateful for.
Got him up in bed.
Yeah, and they were really sick. They had like solos, and he was like getting down on his knees like every time. And I think they had, I think it was just him in the band, but I feel like that was a lot different than you know, having Kelly as the only original member, where it was like Paul, he's actually playing guitar and doing,
Well, Steve's
his
still in the band,
vocals.
isn't he?
Uh,
Steve Flynn, the drummer.
um, that must be the guy that came after. I was talking about like Sean, original membership.
I forget who's at the very, very beginning, but I know Steve Flynn was in the band for quite a while.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
Uh,
able to recognize him. He did look a bit younger though, because I guess
yeah, I don't
Paul's
know.
like
I don't know what he looks like.
52. I looked up. I was like, damn, this food looks like kind of old, kind of young.
Who, Kelly?
No, Kelly looks old as fuck, but
Oh, does he?
yeah, Paul looks kind of old, kind of young.
Yeah, I'm looking at the current lineup pick on Metallum, and I can't pick out which of the other guys he is because they all look younger than Kelly.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, no, apparently Steve Flynn was in Atheist from '87,
Hmm.
right at the beginning. I wonder if he was in Ravage.
Oh, I
Yeah,
thought you were
yeah.
talking about Cynic's drummer. I was like, I was talking about Sean being in the band, but
Oh, sorry, yeah, yeah, no, no idea.
oh, okay. But yeah, that's how that show went when great, seeing Cynic, so I can cross that off. I can write that on the bucket list and cross it off now because I didn't think I was gonna see him.
This who you guys were talking about? Steve Flynn of Atheist?
Well, that's who I was talking about. I think
Yeah,
Paul
he's
was
he's
talking.
still yeah,
Paul was
he's
talking
still the
about Cynic.
drummer.
Yeah.
Yeah, still the same original guy.
Well, it looked like it was some young ass dude behind the kit.
Hmm.
What does Steve Flynn
Maybe
look
for
like?
this performance it
Yeah,
was,
maybe
but
maybe for the tour or
Yeah,
maybe.
something.
maybe he didn't. Maybe he doesn't play live with them. I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah, who
but
knows?
yeah, that's my my weekend wrap up, and then you had something else you wanted to mention, Dan?
Yeah, I also wanted to kind of give a shout out to these guys who were commenting on the YouTube channel. One guy in particular who gave us some recommendations, a dude named Bestial Conclave. On the Nomicon episode, he commented about a band called Convicted, who I checked out. They were pretty cool. They're like pretty tech, thrash, death kind of thing. And then who else did he bring up? Oh, he also brought up Clayforge from the Paroxysm episode, another Finnish death and roll kind of band. So cool
Clayforge. That sounds
recommendations.
familiar.
Oh, Clayforge? Yeah, this is the
Yeah.
first time I had heard of him. And then this other guy, what 42, who commented on the excrement video, who compared the drumming on the Scorched EP to Fred Ethy from Dismember. So,
Yeah, he hit
good
that.
point.
Yeah, he hit that right on the nose. I was like looking for that comparison, and that was exactly it.
Yeah, I feel like an ass for not saying that, but somebody said it, so there you go.
I feel
Cool.
vindicated for saying they sound Swedish.
Yeah, you should feel vindicated. Vindicated yet again.
Doesn't happen often, so I'm gonna revel in it.
Yeah, revel in flesh.
It's the only
All
kind of
right.
All
reveling I
right,
can do.
Fred. Yeah. So, what can you tell us about In the Shade of Death, Amon?
It's a weird little album, isn't it?
Yeah, it is weird. I caught so many different things from this.
Yeah, and even to this day, I picked this up ages ago, and even to this day, even though there's not necessarily anything super unique about it, I really have trouble finding bands that sound similar to this album. Amon as a whole is kind of a weird little band, but I think as they went on their later albums, Return of the Black Metal, and the next one, whose name I'm not going to try pronouncing because it's in Czech. It wasn't.
That's a good album name, by the way. Return to the Black Metal.
Yeah, no, they don't fuck around with that title. But it's to me, it's black metal that sounds like it was recorded in a death metal style. That's the best way I can think of describing it, because it doesn't jive with what most people think of black metal, but it's not quite in line with death metal either.
Oh, no, it's not.
I really like the drumming on this album. I think it's a lot more complex than it sounds on the surface. Has a bit of a weird production to it. Kind of a little.
It reminded me a lot of the Spring of Recovery EP from a Drama. It sounds pretty damn
Yeah,
similar to
I could
this,
see that. I could see that.
where the
Um,
kick almost sounds like you're hitting a piece of wood with a stick or something, like a
yeah,
hollow piece of wood.
it sounds, and this will make it sound like I'm making saying that it sounds bad, but it sounds flat. But it's not. It fits the album somehow.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, no, just like every track on this album, I really enjoy. Like the first track has that subtle but really good synth towards the end of the climax. The third track, which I think is one we're going to be playing later on, has that great little interlude in the middle, and then just like that ripping solo after. Just everything on this album just works for me. It's a nice, unique piece of black metal. It doesn't sound like the rest of the Scandinavian scene or anything like that. It's kind of in like its own little void.
It doesn't even really sound like the Czech bands either. It doesn't sound like for maybe like a split couple seconds it does. Like I caught a little bit of Master's Hammer as it goes on, maybe the second or third song, but that feeling doesn't really stay for very long. But it is there, if you remember the like
Yeah,
kind of
I found that
root-ish Master's Hammer vibe.
every time I think that they sound like the other Czech bands, I catch myself. It's just like the actual language and pronunciation that makes me think of that rather than the music
Well,
itself.
I think they have a few different vocal styles on here as well, and there's one of them that straight up sounds like the Master's Hammer vocal style, and then while the other times you're getting more like death metal styles.
Yeah, well, there were two vocalists on this. The founding member, Larva, and Dr. Fay, who was in the band early on, but then kind of just guested later on. And he did some guest vocals on In the Shade of Death. I'm not sure what tracks.
Is that why it sounded like
Um,
fucking Root? Like some vocals sounded like straight up like Root shit, but isn't
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Big Boss singing like that?
uh, Big Boss. Sorry, are you asking if Big Boss was on this album? Because he
No,
definitely wasn't.
yeah,
But
I know that, but I'm saying like, oh, I didn't know Dr. Fay was there, but isn't he also a
yeah,
part of Root?
yeah, he was on Roots at their early demos, like back in the 80s.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
But
Yeah.
yeah, there was certain parts where it did sound like straight up like Root vocals, which was pretty sick, and otherwise it was like Master's Hammer, then just straight death metal.
And Dr. Fay actually passed away just like late April.
oh
Yeah, I
man.
saw that.
Yeah, it sucks. But left off some wicked albums. And yeah, like Amon was introduced to me way back in the early 2000s. A good friend of mine introduced me to Barbarian Wrath and Nazgul's Irie, the preceding label, where some of their albums were released. And um, this one, for whatever reason, isn't on either one. I guess it's in the stages between after Nazgul's Irie uh, ended and before Barbarian Wrath started up. So they kind of self-released it. 400 copies, I think. And I found it in the store, a used record store, and I didn't recognize it. I kind of just picked it up on a whim, and it worked out. Uh, for like this is their second album, and it doesn't really sound like anything else in their discography. It's kind of an anomaly in there. I think it's a weird one. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I haven't heard the other albums from these guys. I kind of just focused on this one, but it seems kind of like an anomaly. A lot of the stuff about it seems like an anomaly. Like it says it was recorded in 2000. It doesn't really sound like it
Yeah,
was recorded in 2000 at all. It sounds like this is at latest like 95 or something. It sounds
Mm.
very old.
yeah. I was gonna ask you, Fred. I was gonna be like, did this really come out in fucking 2000?
Yeah, yeah, same here because there's
Yeah.
always like these cases.
No, it totally did. So the band has a bit of a weird history. So they were around as early as '89, um, and they recorded some demos and an album. Um, so Nazgul's Irie released, well, they reissued the Call the Master demo remixed, and I think they removed a track as well, and kind of marketed that as an album, which is a bizarre move. And they also released the album that was recorded, The Worship, in '98, and that was marketed as an album, but that actually was meant to be an album. But they marketed both of those under the name Amon Gert or Get or whatever, the name of the guy that ran that Polish concentration camp. Um, Amon had no real say in that. They kind of just released them that way. I don't think they really argued it, but they were disbanded at the time, so they didn't really care too much. So in '96, Call the Master comes out as a reissued demo under Amon Get, and then The Worship comes out in '98. That's their first actual album. And then they reformed in like '99 or so. And that's when they recorded In the Shade of Death. So that's why I say Shade of Death is their second album, because the first one was released under Amon Get after they broke up. And the first, in quotations, album is just the demo reissued. Um,
Hmm.
so yeah, kind of a weird story. But after that, they were recording a second album, or material for it, and it was what they had recorded was released under I can't pronounce this, but I'm going to try Zrozeni Smrti in 2002. And what happened is while they were recording it, three of the members, um, on the way back from the studio, two of them were killed in a car crash.
On the way back
So
from the studio?
Yeah, I saw that
yeah,
too. That's so fucked. The bass player and the
yeah.
drummer.
So
Damn, what year
what
was
they had,
that?
that was 2001.
Oh man. So all these guys, the guys from this album,
I
or is it the guys from Goeth?
I believe it was the guys from this album. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
it
this
was.
Yeah,
album.
yeah, I saw two guys, the rest in peace next to their name on the website.
Yep. So those were the two. So they recorded In the Shade of Death, and then they were in the process of recording material for the next album, and they were killed on the way back from
Oh
the
man.
studio in a car crash. So that album kind of got well, not scrapped. They were released what they had recorded, along with the Call the Master demo, unremixed on that same CD, and then a bunch of other compilation or other tracks here and there. I think there's actually a couple of shades from a couple tracks from the In the Shade of Death session on there too. So if you like this album, check out that little compilation. There's a couple of nuggets on there too from this album.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, like weird history for this band, man. And they broke up after the last album in 2015, I think. Um, Actually, they were already broken up by the time that album came out. Crazy. They do that a lot.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, talking about like what this actually sounds like and what this actually does. One of the first things I thought of, and I think this like there's things that this album does that like they only happen once, but one of the things that happens like continuously. This reminded me a lot of Het's Heads. That's what I got a lot from this.
Oh,
Like
weird. Okay.
cast and silver kind of shit. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know why Het's Heads like the really kind of bouncing, groovy, simplistic death metal kind of vibes, which like could be still thrown into the black metal sphere, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Are you talking about like those death and roll kind of riffs that happen like later in the album?
No, no, not the death and roll kind of riffs. The like what mainly happens on this, I feel like sounds a lot like Het's Heads. Basically, all the stuff that sounds Swedish is what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
All the like guitar work that sounds Swedish.
The riffs that go
But
like da na 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 na. Mm.
yeah, stuff like that. Yeah, you're right. There is some like I caught that too. The like rock and roll, bluesy kind of riffs.
Yeah, they had some really bluesy riffs on the last album too, on the Worship. I think even one of the albums or one of the tracks just like flat out breaks into like a blues section. But no, they were afraid to do weird stuff.
Yeah, there's one I think they only do this once. There's like one moment in the middle of the album where the song starts off and it straight up sounds like a battery riff,
Yeah.
like a Viking battery kind of riff. And there's parts of it that like I said, there's parts that just kind of happen one off and don't really happen again. But there are a few of the Viking things. There's like parts that sound like Bathory, parts that sound like that Fjärving and Perkele. And there's also like these little tiny intro parts where they sound like stuff from the first Carbonized album or something. Like these really like jangly, jazzy, creepy kind of futuristic intros. It's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
This whole thing is really yeah, it's a really weird one,
I'm glad
especially
I
with
picked
all
this one
the
up. It was such a
Czech
random find.
isms. Yeah, it sounds like a lot of things are just thrown together,
But it
and
works, right?
for the most part, I wouldn't say it doesn't work. It's just it's a really interesting way to throw all these things together. But for the most part, yeah, I think I would say it works.
It's one of those self-released CDs too, so there's absolutely no label or contact information whatsoever on the back. It's just a track list, and you're like, oh, okay, I don't know where this came from.
Hmm. Yeah, well, what do you think, here, Polly? Did you write anything?
Yeah, I had quite a few things to say
Oh,
about
okay.
it. Let's see. Let's get this out the way. The intro, I felt like I was walking into like a baseball stadium with the organ. I was like, maybe that was evil a couple years ago, but I was ready for
No, that's
the
always evil.
I was ready for the opening pitch and shit.
Yeah,
Doo-doo-doo-doo.
I tend to skip the intro.
Yeah, but man, speaking about intros, just because it's the start of a song doesn't need to be an intro, because it seems like every song on here has an intro. The only one I really like is probably the second track with the bells, because then they bring that shit back during like that like slower riff, and it just sounds like fucking really sick.
Hmm.
But let me see what else. Those fucking kicks, man.
You don't like them? I like them.
Bro, I got used to him. I was like, yeah, this is good. You can hear what he's doing. It cuts through the mix really well. Could have dialed it back, but when I first heard him, you guys, I know Fred, you love this shit. Dan, I know you love this shit. It was like the fucking Bonnie Python scene with the coconuts and the
Yeah, where he's
horses
like galloping around.
That's what that shit reminded me of. But
Yeah, it's the way the Spring of Recovery EP sounds. Sounds like yeah, like somebody's hitting wood together or something.
yeah, just
Yeah.
shit that sounds like the fucking
Under the Sign of Hell from Gorgoroth.
Yeah, I like weird drum sounds like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's quirky.
Yeah,
yeah. But
I'm quirky.
I got into it, later, because you can actually hear what this guy's doing rather than it being like kind of muddled in the mix and not, um, you know, seeing how intricate he's going, even though he's just kind of keeping that double bass going the whole time.
I feel like that's
But
always a problem for us. Always the kicks. They're always
yeah,
like kind of. What do we do with them?
yeah, they're just so flat. Cause I don't want the typewriter ones. Maybe we should get some blocks of wood next time.
We had typewriter
There you
ones
go.
for the last drum one. That one sounded kind of okay, but it was also kind of weird.
Well, I just didn't perform well.
Oh, at the end where it's like,
Yeah, it's like off time.
that's
Uh,
all right.
I was gonna say also, we already mentioned it. All the vocals being different. It seemed like every song it was a little bit different, and then within
Yeah,
songs it would change. So I thought that was sick too. They have really good death metal vocals, especially when they start off. The first song after the intro, it's like
yeah, it's
they just
pretty
go
deadly.
right into it. Like it's fucking,
Yeah.
after the little intro they have. But
Yeah, heaviness isn't really a it's like that's something they got down throughout the whole album. I feel like it's consistently kind of a brutal fucking album.
yeah, and man, their solos are so good. They like bring up momentum into like the next sections of the song. They're not like for anything. They're not thrown in there. You know, they're like actually probably the best played parts in the album, besides you know, the clean guitar parts too. I thought
Mm-hmm.
those were really good, and
Mhm.
more on the drumming. There's like certain parts where he does like pretty intricate shit with the hi hat, and then like never does it again, and like never shows off any other you know, sort of playing other than like one little section on the hi hat, which is interesting too. He's just kind of, you know, doing his beats, keeping those kicks going, and throwing like a flourish like every 3 songs on the fucking hi hat.
Yep. I know
Yeah,
exactly what
part
you're talking
that's
about.
part of the beat.
Yeah, and let me see what else. Yeah, those death and roll riffs, I really like those towards the end of the album. I found myself liking the 7th and 8th song probably equally, and then, you know, of course the second song, because it just comes in like fucking, I don't even know, like a pile of bricks and shit. It's just really fucking good. And what else was I gonna say? That last song though was kind of was kind of a bit. They could have closed it on the 9th song, I think.
What
It was,
happens on the last song? I don't even
it was
remember.
like not even 2 minutes, and then it's just like, you know, they're playing kind of like what they've been doing throughout the whole album, and then he's just going, "In the shade of death."
Oh yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that. I
I
remember
don't
that.
know why they switched to English for the last song. It
Yeah,
was a really bizarre move.
yeah. I was just like, all right. They got the skeleton on the cover, thinking of that too. He's like, why did they do that?
Yeah,
But
he's
Yeah,
thinking,
I
he's
could be
pondering.
wrong, but I think I remember him saying "in the shadow of death" the whole time, and I'm like, why is he saying "shadow" when the album's called Shade?
yeah, he must have
Yeah,
been
well,
saying that, because I was like,
why is the album title in English too?
Yeah, I don't know.
And all the
It's
songs aren't.
why is Amon in English? No, just kidding. I don't know.
Remember that guy who was talking to Glenn Benton? He goes, "How do you say it? Amen?" He goes, "You got it."
yeah, that was on like on
They
like
were on like public access or
yeah, they were
something.
playing a like PBS or something,
Yeah,
and
they
like
played
wearing that
Sacrificial
weird
Suicide.
and playing that wearing that like weird homemade armor with all the nails in it.
Yeah, he's
Hmm.
going larping.
Yeah,
But
as
yeah,
a golem.
I thought this
Sick.
fucking album was actually really good, and like you guys were saying earlier too, it doesn't sound like anything within the Czech scene. You know, you got the big ones like Master's Hammer and Root, where there's
It
like
does for a
only
second,
little
not for
inklings of
long.
it. Yeah,
Yeah. Tiny little sprinkles in there. Not much though.
but even with the Czech scene in itself, it's just so unconventional as well, because there's like, you know, the other hotbeds of you know, point 0.5 wave or 1.5 wave black metal, where it's you know, you got Greek shit, Italy, Brazil, you know, obviously fucking um, what else? And then like the earlier bands as well. Like I hear their influence from like Venom, Bathory, you know, even a little Merciful Fate with like those solos and shit.
Yeah, I heard
But
some speed metal stuff in here as well.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I wonder, because this band was coming out during a time where they were still in the Soviet Union and not really having access to much shit, like the other bands, like I mentioned, regions, like from Greece, and you know, they were tape trading with Brazil, as well as like, you know, in Sweden and Finland and shit. But I don't know how much of that shit got into the hands of people in the Czech Republic
I
during
mean,
that time.
it's well, is this the same area as the Czech Republic? It says Czechia.
Well, it was like
Is that the
back when
Czech
it was
Republic?
like actually like combined with Slovakia, so it was like Czechoslovakia
Oh,
and
yeah, I
shit.
don't know.
But yeah, that's like when they're like under the fucking Iron Curtain and shit. So I'm just wondering, like, what were they
Sounds
listening
like they
to?
had their hands on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, but even like with this these Czech bands, like what were like the first ones? There was like Tormentor and shit, and
I think Tor is an early one.
Tor, Two Door too, right?
Yeah, Two
Yep.
Door, Tor, probably
Debustral.
Master's Hammer. Who?
Debustral.
I don't think I've heard of them.
Debustrol. One of the earlier extreme metal bands from Czechia.
Yeah, I've never heard of them either.
The I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but their 1988 demo is fantastic. Um, their early albums are great too. Not too familiar with what they've done since then, but definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I definitely have to dive a bit deeper into this
We already
fucking
mentioned
scene.
Root too, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
And I mentioned these guys. I think last episode, Cat. They were kind of extreme.
yeah, for sure.
I know there's a
Cat.
band, fucking, I think they're called Necrocock from this place, but
Necrocock.
Yeah, that
uh,
was the guy from Master's Hammer.
oh, it
Oh,
is.
Yep.
I just wanted to see when the show was coming out. I guess '92, but then they actually started releasing stuff in 2000s. But yeah, I definitely need to, go a little bit deeper into this fucking scene
yeah. Same here. I
of
don't know too
bands.
much about this stuff.
Yeah, because it is along the lines of occult shit. I was even, I don't know if it was just because we just I was listening to it a lot, but I was like even getting some murder rape from it. When they go a bit faster and shit. But
It's a cult, so that kind of makes sense.
yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this shit.
I was gonna say you brought up a couple pretty good points. The one of what did you say? Unconventional, dude. That describes this like extremely well. This thing is totally
Yeah,
unconventional.
cause they just throw like thrash riff, then they'll go like a death metal part, and I think they only ever have like a second wave type riff like once throughout the whole album, and then they have the fucking rock and roll, death and roll riffs and shit,
Yeah.
and it's like how Fred was saying earlier, where it's not bad with the throwing all this shit together, cause
No, no, it isn't bad. It's strange, but it
yeah,
isn't bad.
and I was thinking
Yeah.
like, maybe because they didn't have much access to hearing what other bands are doing, they only have like what's around them, which is, I guess, obviously not on an island, but with these bands in that scene where they're only kind of taking influence from each other, but
Yeah, like
even
the Eastern
Amon
Front
itself
kind of
isn't
thing.
even like taking influence from them. I can't tell.
Well, bear in mind that we do know that they were at the very least in contact with a German label back as early as 1996, right? Because that's when the demo was reissued by them. So
Yeah.
they were they were in contact with again at the very least labels outside of the area. And by the time this album came out,
And
um,
I was gonna say, fucking, keep forgetting this shit came out in 2000, so we're like way past all that Iron Curtain and shit. So
Yeah,
all my
yeah.
shit's fucking moot.
No, but I think the 2000 thing like brings an interesting point to you. You said something about like this being kind of like 1.5 wave black metal, where it's like taking influence from like the first wave of black metal, but it's coming out like much later than that. And so with that, you can do a whole lot of different things with like, all the bands that exist from then to now. And so you get a first wave project, but you also get a lot of other influences thrown in there, which is cool.
Yeah, it's like totally, like, I know we were talking on past episodes of like black metal that's influenced some heavy metal like Sabat and shit like that.
Like,
mhm.
yeah, GBK or whatever.
Yeah, and then there's like this shit, these old Czech bands. Like, it doesn't even sound like they're much influence, or at least Amon isn't much influence from like heavy metal at all. But it's like a
Uh,
different.
I hear some heavy metal
It's
in
like
here.
more thrash shit.
It
Yeah,
kind of
they
sounds
just
like to
do
me
it
that
in a
instead
weird
of
way.
like getting into a particular scene and kind of running with that sound, they kind of just it's almost like they only got a few albums and they were random selections to take influence from, right? And it's weird. I don't know.
It could be the case. You find a lot that like bands from kind of more remote countries always have kind of original sounds, and they're often very strange with like the production and a lot of the influence and stuff like that. I think
Yeah.
just because they are so remote, you know what I mean?
Well, the Russian bands, right? Like they were, especially the ones that were literally like still in the Soviet era, like Cremator. Um, it's like a whole world of their own, right? Like it's
Yeah, yeah.
even like after the Soviet Union fell, like it was a while before uh, things must have really filtered into there, and you can kind of hear it. And like the Russian scene has no real consistent sound to it, the way the Swedish scene does, or the Florida scene does, or the Finnish scene does. Uh, like even Malaysia had kind of a sound to it when it came to the riffing style they played, but the Russian bands, I haven't found any consistency at all.
No,
So I don't know,
there kind of isn't.
which is great, right? Like when you find a an old Russian band you've never heard, you have no idea what you're going to hear. If you find an old Swedish band you've never heard, you've got a good
You
idea what
know,
you're
yeah, you
probably
know
going
what
to
you're
hear
getting.
before you get to it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
unless it's
same with you said like Malaysian bands too.
unless
There's kind
it's
of a thing there.
I was gonna say unless it's Suffer.
Yeah, ooh.
Throwback.
Hey, maybe we should cover one of those like a strange Malaysian band one of these days. Like As
Oh,
Sahar or something like that.
oh
Keckle.
man, I'd love to.
Gotta look into that some more.
Suffocation's still on my one of my top death metal bands. Like,
They were Malaysian, right?
yeah, they're Malaysian. They're one of the earlier death metal bands. They were originally called Suffocation, but they got a cease and desist letter from the American band.
Yeah. So they're Suffocation.
I
Yep.
guess that's what the what's it called? The German label was afraid of for Amon, huh? So they went around and changed their name.
Yeah, I think I don't know if it was specifically because of the ex-Deicide band, but there are so many bands named Amon anyways that they didn't want to get them confused with the other ones. But
That happened to the death metal Baphomet too. They had to change their name to Banished.
yeah, but now they're back under Baphomet, aren't they?
I have no idea. Are they still even around?
Yeah, they started recording stuff, or they're still around. I don't know if they've recorded anything yet, but yeah,
Paul,
because it was
you guys did a cover of Baphomet's or Dying Fetus's cover of a Baphomet song, right?
Yeah, Streaks of Blood.
oh,
Whoa.
that's a great one.
At Molly's Pub.
Yeah.
All right.
Then I played the Judas Priest Painkiller Jump Solo.
Oh, you did? You just hopped on?
Yeah, when I couldn't play well.
Oh, that's all right.
No, kind of a random weird little factoid. The Boiled and Blood EP from Baphomet, that was recorded live. So it's two tracks from a live show back in 1991. And it was the last show ever at a place called the Sky Room. And the reason I remember this is because a guy who sent me like a stack of flyers that he was going to throw out, one of them is actually a flyer for that show advertising the last ever show at the Sky Room, and it was Baphomet along with a couple other bands that didn't really have any consequence, but weird. It's just neat that I have that EP along with an actual copy of the flyer from that show from back in '91.
And why are these people
Well,
trying to throw shit away like that?
I don't know. Like he just posted. We posted on a message board together, and he's like, I have this stack of flyers from old shows. I'm just gonna throw away. I'm like, why don't you just send them
what?
to me? I'll pay the postage. And he didn't even ask me to pay the postage. It was just like a stack of papers, maybe like I don't know, 120 flyers or so. And there's some old, really awesome shit in there. There's even one Mexican flyer that has Shub Niggurath and Python Girdum on there.
Damn,
I need to
sick.
check them out. Some Shub Niggurath.
Oh, they're fantastic. Their demos and EPs are what really do it for me. The albums are good for what they are, but there's a compilation called Horror Creatures.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the demo, right? Horror Creatures, the first one, I believe.
yeah, but the compilation has the demo, a couple 7-inch EPs, et cetera, and rehearsals
Yeah.
and all that sort of stuff. Like they take up the entire runtime of the CD. It's like 120 minutes long. Or yeah, it's well worth it.
I remember Horror Creatures being like pretty cool, but I also remember it being extremely noisy and hard to comprehend.
It's pretty fuzzy. The two 7-inch EPs that came after are probably a bit clearer. Unknown Adorer for me is their best.
Okay, yeah, I'll check that one out.
The cover is really weird. It's like one of the band members holding a scythe while like sitting in a ravine with the building behind them. It's bizarre.
I forget the name of the band, but there was a band picture. I believe they were a heavy metal band, but like the guys, they're all in like, old school 80s garb leather and fucking chains and shit. And they have the two guys are holding jaguars, like real jaguars by chains. I forget the name of the band. It was a really cool band picture though. I think they just played heavy metal. You would expect that would be like a black metal thing.
I don't know. That sounds pretty heavy metal. They usually have
It
their band
it
names
looks it
after.
looks really cool. I can't remember what the name of that band is though. I think they were called Heaven or something. Maybe like, the fuck were they called?
Well, while you look for that, maybe we should listen to the
No,
fucking
this ain't them.
the song.
All right, which one we got?
Let me see. Fred, you want to introduce it? I'm a little rusty on my check yet.
Yeah, my check isn't that good either, but it's the third track from the album. I'm gonna try pronouncing it. Zvon Osudu.
Almost.
Oh, no
And
go.
I picked this one especially because of the interlude in the middle with acoustic. I think it's acoustic or just unplugged guitar. I don't know. You guys are the musicians. You tell me what it is. But the interlude in the middle that just kicks back in with a wicked solo after. One of my favorite tracks on there. It was debating between that one and the second track because I really like the bells and the synth at the end, but had to go with this one. So.
from listening to Amon, uh, Svan Susudu, from
Nice.
On Doodle.
In the Shade of Death, and we're hydrated and we're ready to talk about it. What'd you guys hear?
Absolutely.
Everything. Bathory, Motorhead,
Vaughn,
Master's Hammer, Swedish death metal.
Root for sure.
Root vocals.
Yeah, with the yeah, that must have been Dr. Fay on that song because they're just a dead ringer.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I was like, no way they had Big Boss on that shit, but that was like, couldn't miss it. And
Just checked out a Big Boss album today for the first time. It was really weird.
you like that first
Yeah,
album
the
cover?
clean vocals, right?
It was the second one. It was Belial's something.
Check out that first fucking cover of Q7.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It looks like a fucking PowerPoint or something.
Yeah, it does.
Uh, but yeah, this fucking this song, epic fucking solo, and like you were mentioning before, it like has that clean guitar section where the bells come back from the intro of the song, and what I really like about their solos, they're not just fucking random. They actually like bring momentum for the rest of the song. Like they just carry out on just this really high note and then go back to uh, the first and second riff where it's just like so fucking heavy and we're saying kind of like Vaughn and shit.
Kind of like Vaughn mixed with like something Grave might do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was bouncy Swedish. I see what you mean by
Mm-hmm.
that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's got all kinds of yeah, there's just all kinds of stuff that they seem to be taking from this.
Yeah, it seems like with them, they're like, all right, this sounds sick, that sounds sick.
Yeah, I think Roman had brought up on the episode they had with him on. He's like, my favorite genre is guys playing riffs they like, and that
Yeah,
kind of fits here.
That sums
yeah,
it up well.
yeah, because
Mm-hmm.
they
The
t- oh, go ahead, Fred.
no, I was just gonna say what the hell was I gonna say? No, it's gone. All right, you go.
I was gonna say they're totally unbound from like just any genre or anything because they're just
Yeah,
going.
there's really no limit here. I mean,
They
it's kind of punkish too. I mean, that probably has to do with like the Swedish
Yeah, the
death metal
drumming
sounding
for
thing. I
sure.
mean, that must have been an influence for them, right? The Swedish kind of shit. It had
Yeah,
to be.
Yeah, I think so because there's no denying those types of riffs and shit and the kind of jumpies they were doing
Maybe
too.
Vaughn, maybe Cat and Venom and stuff like that.
Because I was
I mean,
hearing a bit like just with the aggression they had with those like Vaughn riffs and parts, it sounded fucking like a war metal type shit, like but more of like the
sure,
Brazilian type.
yeah,
sure. This is war metal in certain sections of the song, like
Yeah,
that part is.
yeah, because they just come right out of the gate and just fucking give it all they can and shit.
yeah. It's funny because like if you're just listening to this in the background, it might not sound uh, particularly different. When you actually like give it a solid listen, it's remarkable how textured this is. There's like we said, it's kind of an everything but the kitchen sink approach, but it merges together well.
Yeah, and like
I don't know.
even throughout like the rest of the album, there's like parts where you wouldn't necessarily think or that these like keys and stuff would fit, but it works, you know, where they're kind of like a bit unconventional, even down to the sound of him, but it definitely adds character to the shit.
Yeah, one other thing
Yeah.
about this too. Sorry, were you gonna say something, Fred?
No, I was just gonna say that it makes me want to go revisit that compilation CD that came out a couple years after and find those tracks from this session to remember what they sound like. 'Cause it's been a long time since I mean, I've listened to the album, that compilation, not too long ago, but I don't remember which tracks on there are actually from the Shade of Death sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Was there
Oh, I was just gonna say, I interrupted Paul this time.
no?
Go ahead,
Go
Paul.
ahead. I got I'm different tangent.
Oh, yeah, I was gonna go back to the again the 1.5 wave thing. where like, yeah, this comes out in 2000, and there are things that like probably couldn't have come out on an old occult black metal record, like in the early 90s. But with that, they kind of keep the tradition. Like there really aren't any second wave Norwegian or Scandinavian black metal things going on in this. It kind of sticks with what could have been going on in the early '90s to make like an occult uh, black metal album as they would see it. You know, you have the early death metal stuff. You have the thrash and the speed metal,
Mm.
and even some of the like Bathory type stuff, and that all that exists like in that time frame. But to kind of have all that knowledge in like the year 2000 to record this, and then to leave out any second wave sounding, because there really isn't any second wave
Yeah,
sounding stuff on
Yeah.
this. I
No,
think that's
there
just an
really
interesting point to keep it traditionally as what it is. You know, it's not exactly an occult black metal uh, release like to a T, but for the most part, I think it works as one.
Yeah, and some of those early demos are like they're kicking around. You can hear them, right? And because the very first one is not the Czech titled one. It's Realm of Evil. Uh, that one I'm pretty sure you can find it on YouTube and just hear what they sound like back when they were recording in like 1989, 1990, and they hadn't really changed a ton. They kind of just took their weird little sound and just like stuck with it.
yeah.
That's interesting. Yeah, I haven't heard that stuff.
I was
I'll have
gonna
to check it
say,
out.
like, it sounds like something that they could have done earlier and released it, but I saw somewhere that I think maybe in like the notes of the release it said that it was recorded in March, in 2000, and then released, May. So they were did it pretty quickly actually. I wonder how much time was rehearsing.
I don't think it was a ton either because they were broken up before that too. Like this, it seems like it was a pretty spontaneous album. I think because I know they broke up in like '96 before either of the reissues came out under Nazgul's Diary, and I know they were still broken up when the album came out in '98, so they must have reformed around '99, which means that at most they had a year and 3 months to
Yeah.
write, rehearse, and record this. So, I mean, assuming none of the tracks are left over from before, I mean, it's always possible these are tracks they had kicking around that they just never actually recorded too, I suppose. But
That's why the
I don't know,
rehearsal releases are important. You know,
right?
just yeah, sure they're
Lets us
not
know what the fuck they were doing.
yeah, sure they're not fucking recorded well, but at least you know that they're working on something.
Yeah, you know that where they're coming from at least, or at least where they
Yeah.
start and kind
If,
of end up. That's always good.
if
Hmm.
any bands are listening to this, we want your rehearsal shit. This is what we thrive on. We are
Yeah, we want
nerds.
that. Do a demo. Don't just record an album and then
Fred will buy it. He'll get the
Yeah.
postage and everything.
yeah,
Let us nerd out over it. That's what we do. We need to listen to it and
fuck
be
yeah.
like, hey, the demo version has like 3 notes different,
Yeah, be like the demo
and
version
then
is incomprehensible. We love it.
we can make an entire episode around it.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, you guys on Metal Archives,
Of course.
I can be. Hang on.
go look up a band called Heaven. It should be the fourth one down from France,
Done.
and look at their album cover for this.
Oh,
That looks like Harry Potter on there, dude.
the guy on the left almost looks like Ozzy.
The guy on the left looks like a fucking cat.
Yeah, he does. Look at the guy on the fucking right, top right. He looks kind of
Yeah,
scary.
he looks like a Greek statue. The guy in the middle looks like a fucking creepypasta.
The guy in the middle looks like fucking
A
like
police
Eric
sketch?
Estrada or something.
No, he
And then
looks
the
like
guy on the
he
bottom
looks like
left.
he looks like a police sketch of a guy that was standing outside a kid's playground.
Yeah, the guy on the bottom left looks like John Denver.
Is the bottom right a woman?
Looks
Or the
like
bottom
it.
left, I meant. Yeah, it might be a woman. I don't know. I found this on YouTube. Somebody says Beauty Prague.
Ew.
It's 1981, so this might be like some of that new wave British heavy metal, but it still has like 70s prog in it. That's what it looks like.
What's that circle under the bearded guy? Oh,
Uh,
is that the Earth? Oh, that's the Earth. Okay,
Yeah,
this
that
is
that
prog.
that pale
that's
blue dot.
that's not what the oceans
Carl
look like, but
Sagan, yeah.
okay.
Oh
I just
man,
wanted you guys to see that album cover.
yeah, that is something.
I'm
Why?
gonna listen to that later.
There's no information about the people.
Or anything.
They had a
Oh,
single. It's 2 songs. That's it. Independent release in 1981.
okay. Well, that's a thing.
Maybe
But
Raph's gonna have to
No
get this for
Jaguar though.
influence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't remember what the hell I thought I could have sworn they were called Heaven or something. That's how I found this. I was trying to find the band with the Jaguars in the fucking in the band picture.
Okay, well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but I found a Brazilian one that's a heavy metal band that themes is Christianity. I mean, I shouldn't be surprised.
Man, that Christian band that I listened to fucking
Oh,
recently,
Vengeance Rising?
dude, that album is fucking great.
Yeah,
E-
that's an awesome one.
Even their like 5 fucking second song is so good too. I forget what
Did
it's
you
called.
did you get a chance to listen to Believer?
I listened
Yeah, I
to
listened to
one
some
album
Believer.
from them, but not the one that you showed me.
Oh, that might have been a mistake. Was it any good?
I liked it, but I like a little bit more of like the progressive sort of stuff. I think it was the album from '93.
Yeah,
It's called.
it's called Sanity something, isn't it?
I'm not sure. I
Wait,
gotta.
which Vengeance Rising album were you guys talking about?
Let me see.
For Vengeance Rising, the first one.
Human
is-
Sacrifice.
Human
Yeah.
Sacrifice?
Yeah, that's so fucking good,
Yeah,
Yep.
dude. Like,
I'll have to check this out.
it reminded me somewhat of like Running Wild, but not so much like in a shanty type of way. It reminded me of like something that, um, GBK would like take influence from, or August Lint.
Hmm.
Cause it's like, dude, it's fucking amazing. Like, I can't believe that was like the first time I heard it, or had found it.
Christian Death Thrash, 1988.
Yeah, it's.
Yep.
It,
I think I know the band from maybe from you, Fred, but I've never heard this for sure.
I would put
What,
them
Vengeance
up.
Rising?
I would put them up with Holy Terror, dude.
Really,
Not so much vocal wise, but just how they're playing.
really.
Yeah,
I'll have to check this out then.
yeah. But I liked it all the way. I couldn't turn it off.
Damn.
Yeah, some of those Christian
And they're from LA
death
too.
and thrash metal bands were pretty good. They had some of them had some chops.
Yeah, Believer was pretty good on that one album. I think it's the '93 one that Paul was talking about.
I only have the first from I think it's '89. I really like that one, Extraction from Mortality.
Yeah, I've never
check
heard that one
out.
before.
How about Living Sacrifice?
Oh
Uh,
yeah,
Australian
yeah, yeah.
band.
which
Like
one?
it's
Which I can't remember
it's
which
total
band that
total
is.
Slayer worship, but total Slayer worship. And then
That's
they
not the
went
one
like
with the fucking like with the preacher like in the music video, is it? Where he's like the singer?
I haven't seen any music videos for Living Sacrifice. It's the
That
album
they
cover
have
with
an
the
album where it's like the Earth something like fuck is it? I think you showed me a Living Sacrifice album not too long ago.
it has a nuclear explosion on the cover with a bunch of
Yeah. That's the one
soldiers
I was
watching
thinking
it.
of.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I get it's total Slayer worship, but it's really well done. And they kind of went to metalcore soon after that.
I was
And
gonna say they got a bit of a fucking brutal death metal logo after the first album.
yeah, but yeah, they didn't. I think that second album was still pretty thrashy, and eventually they started going into like new metalcore sort of thing, like the kind of shit where you listen to it and you're like, yeah, they're all wearing baseball caps.
Head banging so hard it falls off. Uh, But yeah, who else is
Man, now I'm
pushing?
excited to listen to fucking Vengeance Rising.
Yeah, hopefully I didn't hype them up too much, but I really like them a lot. They're
Fred,
refreshing.
you know that band Paul just mentioned, Holy Terror, when we were
Yep.
talking about Living Sacrifice? You know those
Yep.
guys?
Yep.
Fucking dank.
We need an
Yeah.
Greatest,
episode on
best
that.
thrash band ever. Well, for
Yeah.
me
No,
at
they're good.
least. Yeah, Keith Dean. Awesome vocalist.
R.I.P. Right?
Yeah, RIP to him.
For some reason, it reminds me of you remember the band that came before Centurion, Inquisitor from the Netherlands. The vocals are
Yes,
off the
yes,
walls
yes.
on that.
Yeah, yeah, that's the one where he almost does some like Danny Filth kind of stuff.
Yeah, like they're
Yeah, Paul, you
loud.
know that one, Inquisitor? What is it called, like Walpurgis Night or something? The
Yeah,
album?
that's it. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
Yeah, that one's excellent.
Netherlands, you said, right?
Hmm.
yeah. The members went on to Centurion and Knox while they were Centurion, then they split up, and the same members I think formed Knox, and then they went back to Centurion for an album, and now I think they're just done.
Damn, these are the guys from Desultory too. Or,
Desultory.
yeah.
Ooh, Inquisitor?
Oh, it's a thrash band named Desultory, not the
Oh,
not the other.
different distillery. Okay.
Yeah, okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I was like, damn. But
They got around.
yeah. But I guess he was
Yeah,
the
the
drummer was
bad
part
guys
of
know. We're saying they leave us
Judgment Day
alone.
though. That melodic death metal band.
It sounds familiar.
Circumcision
Yeah, that
of the
band's
Martyr.
actually pretty good.
Yeah. They get around.
Judgment. I always forget about that too. Excellent.
All right, boys.
Whoopsie.
Should we give some final thoughts on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
It was good.
Not
No, they
Really
everyone all at
ruining
once
stuff.
now.
Yeah.
as a outlier as this scene is, the Czech scene with black metal, especially 1.5 wave black metal. This band stands out so much, even from uh, their kinsmen. They don't sound much like Master's Hammer, except for maybe a couple riffs here and there, and Root dead on that song that we sampled. But just vocal wise, but other than that, they're throwing in black metal, death metal, thrash, even a little bit of heavy metal, as well as like we're hearing death and roll, as well as like bluesy solos, blues riffs as well. They're just kind of throwing everything that they want to hear into this album, and it's such a strange one from coming out in 2000. It I it's like mind-boggling. Like I don't think that shit
My mind is in a bottle.
yeah, it's not coming out.
Mind boggling.
Yeah. But yeah, that shit was boggling and boggling.
Yeah. It's like,
But
yeah, when your mind's in a bottle.
yeah, like a ship.
Yeah.
But yeah, these guys definitely do that to me, and I'm glad you keep showing me this fucking evil ass shit, dude.
Yeah, I love bringing up the weird ones,
Yeah, you're
but
you're keeping this podcast metal while we're keeping it weird.
And stupid.
it's yeah, like for this, for Amon's just an interesting band for me all around. I love everything they've done. This one probably goes to the top because it was one of the first things I heard from them, and it was such a pleasant surprise when I picked it up. But uh, everything that's interesting about this album, we've mentioned, and it's so much more than that. Like it's when you first hear it, it might sound fairly, typical, but the more and more you listen to it, the more and more it grows on you. So, uh, if you don't get too much out of it on the first listen, I'd say give it a couple spins more because like Shrek, it's like an onion or a parfait. It has layers, but
An onion,
it, it's
like an ogre.
but yeah,
Eggs have layers.
on top of the album, it's just a band that has so much story behind them. They've been around, well, they were around for quite a while. There's tragedy in there too, right? And connections to some pretty major Czech bands. I know some of the members were, like we said, in Root and Asgard, and even I think one of them was even in Inferno at some point. But it's yeah, interesting band, interesting releases, and for me, In the Shade of Death is the best one of the bunch.
All right, sick boy, your turn.
Sick boy.
Asgard. I don't think I've ever heard this Asgard that has connections to Amon.
Nuclear War Now actually reissued the demo not too long ago.
Man, I gotta write this one down too, because I want to check this out. I've never heard of these guys.
Yeah, the demo's like from '95. The '95 demo they reissued.
Yeah, with the last one, with Murder Rape, and with this one, they're both like occult black metal, which seems to be kind of your forte, Fred. But like with Ama, it's like how would anybody ever even find this? You know what I mean?
Right?
It's so kind of out of nowhere. It's independent. It comes off of that label we were talking about last time, the Nazgul's Irie, but that
Yeah.
doesn't have a whole lot of releases either. And I can't imagine these days somebody kind of just some random guy, stumbling upon that label and going through some of that stuff. So in a way, it's almost a random find. But yeah, it's interesting that this thing has some connections to bigger bands. And you were right. At first listen, I really didn't think it was anything too special. I thought it was like pretty unique and pretty interesting. But the more I kind of got into it, the more it does seem like a classic in a way. It seems like something actually very special for the time and for the place, and it's just a really cool fucking release. And at first listen, it almost sounds like it straight up gives the vibe of death metal, but as you go on, you realize this really isn't death metal at all. It's not. There's nothing. There's no like tech quality that a lot of death metal has. Even. But it doesn't even have the like, fucking lurching zombie kind of death metal quality either. It really does have the old like worship hymn fucking occult feel with kind of what you guys are already saying, like everything's thrown in there together. But it's a cool album. It's probably one of the better ones I've heard in a long time, and I think maybe a person or two will get some discovery out of this thing and really enjoy it. So yeah,
I hope so. Yeah,
hmm
that's why we do these, right? This like
sure, yeah, yeah,
underrated little gems that need to be out there more.
yeah. Need to be like some things that you would like to have been talked about.
Hmm.
That's kind of yeah. It's why we're doing this.
Yeah, for sure.
Get some of our favorites and let them be known.
Well, for the last word, amen.
Amen.
I was gonna say that this album was really lightning in a boggle, but I guess
Boggle? That would have been good. Lightning in a boggle.
Fuck you guys,
It's
I hate
mind
you.
boggling.